Good evening, everyone out there in YouTube land. My name is Jared, and this is my channel Mazda B3K. In this video, I am replacing the radiator in my brother's 93 F250, nicknamed Ty. Without further ado, let's get started. Alrighty guys, first step on pulling the radiator is we got to disconnect everything. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of the upper radiator hose over here. That's going to be a flathead or an 8mm if you got it. I happen to have the 8. Alrighty guys, first step on pulling the radiator is we got to disconnect everything. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of the, slide that back a bit, radiator hose over here. Get it off the, that's going to be a flathead or an 8mm if you got it. What I'm actually going to have the 8 is, so. Slide that back a bit so it can't run away on me while I'm working on other stuff. What I'm actually going to do, have a nasty habit of doing that. Tighten it up. That's not going anywhere. So it can't run away on me while I'm working on other stuff. Yep. Alright, cool. Clamps have a nasty habit of doing that. Alright, so that's the upper rad. Nothing else we need to do over here at the moment. Alright, so that's not going anywhere around. And we got to take care of, with me? Yep, alright, cool. All the stuff come in over here. We've got this coolant line that goes to the throttle body. Nothing else we need to do overflow over here at the moment. Overflow is easy. I'm going to pivot you around. And we got to take care of, so I'm going to go ahead and drain out. All the stuff come in over here. We also need to take care of this coolant line that goes to the throttle body. Clamp there. And then we have the overflow. Overflow is easy. Screwdriver for that one because it's not a 8mm. In our case, it's just water. So I'm going to go ahead and drain out. Same deal. Loosen it up. And we also need to take care of this. There's a small clamp there. This one's been here a minute. Gonna opt for the screwdriver for that one because it's not a 8mm. Same deal. Loosen it up. That's pretty nasty. Tighten this one's been here a minute. And then what we're gonna do is, this is supposed to be bolted to something. I think what you're supposed to do is, actually I have no clue what it's supposed to be bolted, but we can take, swing you back around. Looks like I lost some footage there. Sorry guys. Now what we got to do is, this is supposed to be bolted to something. I think what you're supposed to do is, there are two transmission cooler lines. Actually I have no clue. They are 1/2. But and then below the transmission cooler lines, as you can see, is the lower radiator hose. That's got to come out too. So we're going to work on that. For the lower radiator hose, it's probably going to be a screwdriver. I got to get under the truck to get at that clamp, and then we'll work on these transmission lines because I've not had them off, so I don't know how much they're going to fight. I should also mention before you start this, before you start to replace your radiator, make sure that you drain it before you start, because otherwise you're either going to have a mess on your concrete, you're going to have a mess on in your yard. And this one only has water in it right now, so not a big deal, but you don't want to let coolant just sit in big puddles. It's not toxic per se, but it is fatal if swallowed by animals, so you don't want to leave that lying around. Anyway, back to it. Okay, so we have the lower rad hose is off, as you can see. Now we're going to take a look-see here at these transmission lines. Let me get you set up. Alright, that's a pretty good position for the top one. Let's see if we can't get this guy loose. Alright, so that would be to tighten. So we want to do this to loosen. And kind of what I thought, this fitting is spun into the radiator, and the new radiator I have, it already has this done. As you can see, when I'm trying to take this out, I get on this, it's trying to spin this, so we're going to have to take another wrench and lock this down. So let me go figure out what size wrench that is. Okay, looks like we have a 5/8 is our wrench, so I'm going to try to cheat a little bit. Let's see if I can't do this. Nope. Alright, I have to do it the hard way. Alright, so we're going to lock that in there. And then this needs to go this way. I just realized I'm turning that the wrong way. This needs to go that way. Now, keep in mind, you're probably going to pee out a little bit of transmission oil fluid. ATF, take your pick. When you do this one probably not so much because you're above the height of the transmission. But your lower one, it might pee a little bit, so be ready for that. Because you're not going to be able just to slam this radiator in here. Because you got to get the fan shroud off, and then get the radiator off, and then get the new one seated in there, put it all back together. Also bear in mind, these particular fittings can be real finicky to line back up, so when you're working on this, be prepared for that. I've dealt with these before for AC lines, actually, and they made me sad, put it that way. Alright, I'm going to do this on both, bring you back. Alright, I've got the lower one loose, and like I thought it might, it started to pee out fluid. Top one's fine, but the bottom one's not. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to take a bungee, see if I can't bungee it up so that it won't pee, because I don't want to waste a bunch of expensive ATF that's brand new. So let me go get my bungee and get it rigged up, and I'll let you know how it goes. Alright, for the moment, I have it, so we're leaking from the radiator side, and I can't do a ton about that. It's making me a bit annoyed though, because this is in my yard, so now I've got oil going in my yard, which I don't like, so let me go get some towels to soak that up. But the line side I've got bungeed up, and the other end's hooked to the master cylinder, brake master cylinder, so we're good there. But let me get more towels, clean this mess up so I don't get any more oil in the yard. Okay, we've disconnected all the fluid lines from the radiator. So, next step is we got to do a little wiggle jiggle with the fan shroud. We need to get it far enough forward that we can actually pull the radiator up and out. So the fan shroud, at least in my case, is held in place with a pair of 10mm bolts. This shroud I picked up at the yard, and I didn't have the bolts that went with it, so I just found things that fit, and it just so happened they were 10mm. So 10mm, 8mm. Anyway, you got to get the shroud off, and then what I'm going to do is lift this out of the way and slide it forward. You have to push down the lower radiator hose, lift up on the upper radiator hose, slide the shroud forward and down onto the fan, and that should give you the room you need to unbolt the radiator and then lift it out. That's the plan anyway. It's the first time I have, okay, so these are actually 8, sorry. This is the first time I have ever tried to do a radiator swap on an F250. Done a radiator swap on a Ford Ranger. You got less room to work with there. I'm hoping that since this is a big old truck, that it'll go a little bit more smoothly than it goes in a Ranger. Okay, so at this point, shroud's loose. There's 2 tabs that it tucks into at the bottom of the radiator, so you're going to want to lift up, buck the bottom out, and then push the top forward. That's how this is going to work. So a little something kind of like this. And the lower rad hose is fighting me like I thought it would. Get it out of the way. Okay. So something like that. So now we got room to pull the radiator out. Oh man, stuff all over my hands. Alright, so the radiator itself is held by 2 bolts at the top. Let me swing my camera around a little bit. There we go. Right here. There's 2 of them, one this side, one that side. These are 10 millimeter. But, you cry, this is an SAE truck. How can this be 10 millimeter? Because Ford decided to play with all of us, that's why. I think it's because it's just a size that comes up a lot for some reason when they do their engineering. And to note, never had this radiator out, so I'm pretty sure how this works is there's 2 bolts up top. It feels like it's fighting the keeper pretty hard. And then there should be 2 pads or feet that the radiator sits on at the bottom. And that's how this should work. Okay, oh, that's a pretty decent bolt. That's one. So I'll go ahead and do the other, and then we'll work on yoinking the radiator. If you guys want to watch, I'll just kind of angle her up there. Oh my. I bet you somebody's been in here. This is tight. There it goes. It's one thing we have found a lot of on this truck is there's been stuff that's been insanely tight and then its companion bolt's been really loose. So a lot of hands have touched this truck over the last 30 years, causing all sorts of shenanigans. That radiator's loose, and now that it's loose and my hat is dry so I can put it back on, go ahead and lift this out. Yeah, just lift up feet. Now remember, the condenser's there if you have air conditioning, and the radiator might be a wee bit heavy because of fluid in it. Okay, that's it, it's out. Alright, let's go take a look at the new radiator before we work on dropping it in. Alright, here's our new radiator. This thing is liquid gold. They're not cheap, at least the non-Chinesium ones. And there, you do have a little bit of prep work you got to do before you can just drop it in. You need to transfer over your shroud holder thingamabobbers. It does come with a new set of clips for holding the bottom of the shroud. That's going to go down here. So we're going to force those in. And the other thing you're going to have to do, unless you want to come up with a big washer, is you have to transfer this guy. This stopper dude. And I'm going to have to fight with it. But let me figure out how to get that transferred. I'll get the clips in, get everything transferred, and then we can go ahead and we'll drop in the new radiator and start buttoning everything back up. Alright guys, I got it in, and this is what you got to do. There are no little rubber pedestals or anything. Instead, there's two slots of metal that the feet just drop into that do have rubber padding. You don't get new padding with the radiator. You just need to get it seated. And when you seat it, it can be a little bit left or a little bit right of where you need to be. Use the bolt holes to get everything lined up so the radiator is sitting where it needs to be. See, this one here sitting a little high. It needs to be pushed down. Now that I have it pushed down, we're good to go. So I'm going to get this all bolted back in. And putting it back together is basically the reverse of what you saw me taking apart. So radiator first, fan shroud, transmission lines, lower rad, upper rad, overflow, and throttle body line. Get it all back together, get your clamps back on, and that should be it. I'll bring you back when I get it all done. Okay, last thing that needs to be done is check everything you just tightened back up for leaks. So, looking right there, it looks pretty good. Coming over here, that looks fine. Coming over here. Alright, so I do see a leak out of the transmission cooler. Actually, I see leaks out of both, so we're going to have to shut this down and redo it. Alrighty, so as you can see, we took some pipe dope, which you can find at most any hardware store. It's kind of like a liquid version of pipe tape, and you could have used pipe tape as well, but we took the fittings off, laid them up in tape, put them back in, put the transmission lines back in, and sure enough, they do not leak anymore. So now truck runs great, as far as the cooling system goes anyway, with no leaks. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Successful repair on swapping the radiator in my brother's 93 F250 name tie. So, leave a comment if you want to. I like reading them, I like writing them, I like learning from them. Please like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and do all that other YouTube stuff. And remember, I make the mistakes so you don't have to. I'll see you guys next episode.